On the morning of December 1st, 1948, the sun rose over the placid waters of Somerton Beach in South Australia. The tranquil scene, however, was about to become the setting for one of the world's most enduring and baffling mysteries. A local jeweler, John Bain Lyons, had noticed a man lying on the sand the previous evening, his head propped against the seawall. He assumed the man was simply drunk or asleep, a not uncommon sight. But when the man was still there, the next morning, in the exact same position, authorities were called to the scene. The man was deceased, and the mystery of the Somerton man had just begun. He was dressed impeccably for a man found on a beach. A white shirt, a red, white, and blue tie, a brown knitted pullover, and a smart gray and brown double-breasted jacket. His shoes were clean and polished, suggesting he had not wandered far on the sand. There were no signs of a struggle, no marks of violence on his body. In his pockets were a few items: an unused second-class rail ticket to Henley Beach, a bus ticket from the city, a narrow aluminum comb, a half-empty packet of juicy fruit chewing gum, and a pack of Army Club cigarettes containing 7 cigarettes of a different, more expensive brand called Kensitas. Curiously, there was no wallet, no cash, and most importantly, no identification of any kind. All the labels on his clothing had been meticulously snipped off, a deliberate act to erase his identity. An autopsy was performed by Dr. John Dwyer, who noted the man was in peak physical condition, estimated to be in his early 40s. His pupils were small and unusual, and there was evidence of congestion in his organs, a common sign of poisoning. Dr. Dwyer suspected a fast-acting and difficult-to-detect poison, possibly a barbiturate or a soluble hypnotic, but extensive toxicological tests found nothing. The coroner, Thomas Cleland, was left to conclude that he had died from an unknown poison, administered either by himself or by a person or persons unknown. The case grew colder as weeks turned into a month, with no one coming forward to identify the body. In a bid to find a lead, police sent the man's effects to be examined more closely. On January 14th, 1949, a breakthrough of sorts occurred. Professor John Burton Cleland, a pathologist, re-examined the clothing and discovered a tiny, hidden fob pocket within the man's trousers. Inside this secret pocket was a small, tightly rolled scrap of paper. When unfurled, it revealed 2 words printed in an ornate, capitalized font: Taman Shud. Public librarian staff were called in to translate the phrase, identifying it as a Persian term, meaning, "It is ended," or "It is finished." The phrase was known to be from the final page of the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam, a collection of poems by the 12th century Persian poet. This poetic clue added a layer of romantic fatalism to the case, but it also provided a tangible new direction for the investigation. Police launched a nationwide appeal to find the specific copy of the Rubaiyat from which this final page had been torn. The appeal was a long shot, but the mystery had captured the public's imagination. Months passed without success, and the Somerton man remained a silent enigma. Then, in July 1949, a man, whose name was withheld for privacy, walked into the Adelaide police station with a copy of the book. He explained that shortly after the Somerton man was found, he and his brother-in-law had discovered the book in the back of his unlocked car, which had been parked near Somerton Beach. Thinking nothing of it at the time, he had simply put it in his glove compartment. It was only after seeing a recent news article about the search that he made the connection and brought the book forward. The book was a 1941 edition of Edward Fitzgerald's translation of the Rubaiyat, published by Whitcomb and Toombs in Christchurch, New Zealand. Forensic analysis confirmed it was the very book from which the Taman Shud slip had been torn. But the book offered more than just a confirmation. It contained new, even more cryptic clues. On the inside back cover, written faintly in pencil, were 5 lines of capital letters, with the second line struck through. The letters appeared to be a code, a jumble of characters that defied easy interpretation. The top cryptographers from naval intelligence were tasked with breaking the code, but they were unsuccessful. They concluded it was likely an unbreakable one-time pad cipher, or the meaningless ramblings of a disturbed mind. The code's complexity, however, strongly suggested a level of sophistication that pointed away from a simple suicide. The book also contained a phone number, which led investigators to a young nurse named Jessica Jo Thompson, who lived near Somerton Beach. When questioned, Thompson denied knowing the deceased man or anything about the book. However, by all accounts, she reacted with extreme distress when shown a plaster cast bust that had been made of the Somerton man's head and shoulders. She seemed on the verge of fainting, looking away and refusing to look at it again, though she maintained she did not recognize him. She also admitted that she had once owned a copy of the Rubaiyat and had given it to a man named Alfred Boxall, an army lieutenant she had known while working at a hospital in Sydney during World War II. This seemed like a perfect lead. Perhaps Alfred Boxall was the Somerton man. Investigators quickly located Boxall, who was very much alive and well in Sydney. Even still had the copy of the Rubaiyat that Thompson had given him, complete with her inscription. Crucially, its final page, with the words Taman Shud, was intact. The lead had evaporated, leaving only more questions about Thompson's connection and her strange behavior. Why was she so agitated? Was she protecting someone, or was she afraid? The spy theory began to gain significant traction in the post-war atmosphere of the burgeoning Cold War. South Australia was home to the Woomera Prohibited Area, a top-secret Anglo-Australian military research facility. The idea that the Somerton man was a clandestine operative, perhaps a Soviet spy, seemed plausible. The untraceable poison, the removed clothing tags, and the unbreakable code all fit the narrative of espionage and intrigue. Was he a spy who had been compromised and silenced by his own side, or eliminated by a rival agency? The stenciling kit found in his suitcase, with its sharp knife and brush, could have been used for shipping manifests, but it could also have been used for more covert communications. The Barber brand waxed cotton thread found in the suitcase was also unusual, as it wasn't available in Australia at the time, suggesting recent travel from overseas. The suicide theory, however, remained a strong contender. The poetry of the Rubaiyat often dwells on living life to the fullest and accepting mortality without regret. Perhaps the man was a lover spurned by Jessica Thompson, and his death was a carefully staged, poetic final act. His choice of location near her home and the Taman Shud note could be interpreted as a final, dramatic message. Yet, this theory struggled to explain the extreme measures taken to hide his identity and the presence of the complex code. For decades, the case remained frozen in time, a perfect mystery with clues that led everywhere and nowhere. Somerton man was eventually buried in Adelaide's West Terrace Cemetery under a simple headstone that read, "Here lies the unknown man who was found at Somerton Beach." The plaster cast of his bust sat in a police museum, a silent testament to a life erased. In the 21st century, new hope for answers emerged with advances in DNA technology. Professor Derek Abbott of the University of Adelaide began a dedicated investigation, driven by a deep fascination with the case. Abbott's research also uncovered a potential link between Jessica Thompson and the unknown man. He traced her family and discovered that her son, Robin, born in 1947, bore a striking resemblance to the Somerton man. Furthermore, Robin's daughter, Kate Thompson, revealed that her grandmother had a complex and secretive past. Jessica Thompson had told her family that she had lied to the police about not knowing the Somerton man. Admitting his identity was known to a level higher than the police force. She also spoke Russian, adding another layer to the espionage theory. In 2022, Professor Abbott announced a significant breakthrough based on DNA analysis of hairs found trapped in the plaster bust. Webb was from Footscray, a suburb of Melbourne, and had a history of disappearing. He had separated from his wife, Dorothy, in 1947, and his last known whereabouts were in Adelaide. This identification, while not yet officially confirmed by South Australian police, provided a name to the ghost who had haunted the country for over 70 years. It suggested the man was not a foreign spy, but an Australian citizen with a troubled personal life. The name Carl Webb opened new avenues of research, connecting him to a brother-in-law who lived in Adelaide in a penchant for writing poetry. However, the identification did not solve the central mysteries of the case. Why did he go to such lengths to erase his identity? What was the meaning of the code? And most importantly, how and why did he die on Somerton Beach? Was it a suicide driven by his marital separation? Or was he involved in something far more dangerous that led to his murder? The code remains undeciphered, a tantalizing puzzle locked in time. The 5 lines of letters continue to frustrate amateur and professional cryptographers alike. The mystery of the Taman Shud case endures because it operates on multiple levels. It is a detective story, a spy thriller, and a tragic romance all at once. It is a tapestry woven with concrete clues, a book, a code, a ticket, and profound absences. A name, a motive, a cause of death. The story of the Somerton man, possibly Carl Webb, serves as a stark reminder that some secrets may never be fully surrendered, and some endings are just the beginning of an eternal question. The waves at Somerton Beach continue to wash ashore, holding the secret of the man who came to rest there, his story forever finished, yet perpetually unresolved.